Tonight's the night, and welcome to my next Dexter Resurrection Season 1 episode review video, as I was able to watch the episode early on the YouTube Paramount Plus channel. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you haven't watched the original 96 episodes of Dexter, the 10 episodes of Dexter New Blood, the first 10 minutes-ish of the first episode of Dexter Original Sin, and of course these first 6 episodes of Dexter Resurrection, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And if you're new to the channel or finding this channel out for the first time, welcome to the channel. I'm a Dexter fanatic just like you. So join me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man in the comment section to discuss this awesome and amazing show. With all that said, this will be Dexter Resurrection Season 1, Episode 6. The title of this episode is called Cats and Mouse. This will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start things off with Dexter sweeping, and then he says there's something soothing about sweeping, and then Blessing comes out and says his mom, Prudence, has passed away in her sleep. She wasn't in any pain, and then Dexter says death comes for us all, and then Blessing says that they'll be awake this afternoon and invites Dexter to come. So then Dexter calls Harrison and tells him he'll have to take a rain check on their meetup, as there's been a death in his landlord's family, and then Dexter asks Harrison, is a hoodie proper attire to wear to awake? It's black. And Harrison says, no. Then we have Harrison stopping by Dexter's with a suit, and he tells Dexter he wouldn't believe what people leave in hotels. And then Dexter says he dressed up, and Harrison's like, yeah, it'd be really strange if you were and I wasn't. And then Dexter says, I appreciate it, but you don't have to come. And then Harrison says, funerals are hard, really hard when you're alone. And then Dexter says, what are you talking about? And at the same time, he has a vision of young Harrison, played by Jaden Wells, and the great Hannah McKay, played by Yvonne Strahovski. It's the end of Dexter, the original Dexter. Not the very end, not the lumberjack scene, but when Dexter, or Harrison and Hannah are in Argentina, and then Hannah sees the news of Dexter dying. So that was good. And then, of course, Harrison says, Hannah, I never felt so alone in my life after she died. And Dexter says he's sorry he had to go through that by himself. I've been waiting for this. The mention of Hannah in New Blood, and then they quickly didn't mention her again afterwards. Hannah was a big focal point in Harrison's life. He should be thinking about her quite often because he was a baby when Rita was around. Hannah raised Harrison, and for them to go this long without really touching base on Hannah, I feel like Harrison, when he has his urges to potentially hurt somebody, he should be thinking of Hannah McKay. Just my opinion. Of course, if she's really dead, which something, I don't know. I know I talk about this all the time, but something's fishy about the whole Hannah pancreatic cancer stuff. I would like to get more insight in that. I mean, I'm sure she is at this point, but something just doesn't make sense about it. Unless they just didn't want to talk about that, that angle anymore, and they don't want to bring Yvonne Strahovski back. But I feel like she will come back, at least in some sort of hallucination scene, whether it be to Dexter or to Harrison, or both of them. And then we have Dexter teaching Harrison to tie a tie, just like Harry had taught him. And then Dexter says, show your mother, or Dexter says, your mother would be proud. Both of them. Yes, absolutely. Rita, but more so Hannah McKay, because he was around Hannah for a majority of his life thus far. And then we see Dexter, Harrison, and Harry all together looking in the mirror. And then Harrison says he's glad he came back. Losing him a second time was rough. And Dexter says he's not going anywhere. He promises. And then Dexter tells Harrison to brace himself for a lot of sadness. But when they go in, it's like a party because it's a celebration of life. And Harrison's like, so sad. And then we have Joy meeting Harrison. She says she's been helping him. Or I should say she says that she's been helping Dexter with pain management. And then Cheeky's there as well, and ladies love the scar that he got from the fake dark passenger. And then Blessing tells Dexter it's a celebration of life. You must be Harrison. And like his mom would be so happy that they met back up after the hunting thing accident. And then Dexter pays his respects to Blessing's mom, Prudence, as they have her body in there. And then we have Charlie going to Red's place. She sees that he's got a lot of mail piling up, and she calls Leon Prater and says, Red's MIA too. And Leon says, understood. And then we have Harrison chatting with Joy and her husband Sam. And then it's time for cats. Apparently, Blessing's mom, Prudence, loved cats. Everyone has to take a cat home as she has a bunch of cat statues in honor of Prudence. We find out that Prudence didn't ever forget birthdays, which I'm really good at as well. And then Dexter chooses a cat. If this were a dog, it would be barking, because we know that dogs don't get along with Dexter. And Dexter will miss her food, he mentions. Prater calls Dexter looking for Red. He says he left because they found his job and his home, and he likes to be not known. And Prater's like, I would expect nothing less from the dark passenger. And then Prater says, my place, ASAP. Then we have Harrison looking into New York University. Elsa calls and says that Harrison needs to be there to watch Dante. And Harrison says, sure. And then Elsa's like, you're a lifesaver. And then Mia's potential victim is questioned by Oliva and Wallace, Claudette and Melvin. And he mentions that Mia said that he'd be her first kill in New York City. And then Oliva and Wallace debate if Mia killed Ryan Foster. But how'd the watch get there? She didn't. And then we have Angel Batista showing up. He says, I don't think Mia killed Ryan Foster. You've got the wrong person. And then he talks to them about the Bay Harbor Butcher and the FBI suspect, James Dokes. But he goes over his theory that a forensic at Miami Metro, Dexter Morgan, was actually the Bay Harbor Butcher. And he has new information regarding that. So he thinks it's Dexter Morgan that did this, that was involved with this, but it's not him specifically because he was in a coma at the time. But he thinks that Dexter taught his son Harrison a code, and that Harrison killed Ryan Foster. And then Angel wants to show Mia Dexter's photo. He's got the photo, the mugshot from Dexter New Blood that Angela took of Dexter. And if she recognizes him, he'll know that he's onto something. Then we have Gemini, a.k.a. Gareth, Rapunzel, a.k.a. Al, and Dexter as Red are at Prater's place. And then Gemini, Gareth, whatever you want to call him, is full of himself, thinking that Mia would tell the authorities about him. And he even mentions that David Fincher's making a movie about the Gemini Killer, because he made the movie The Zodiac, with Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, I can't remember, Jake Gyllenhaal, and a bunch of other people that are in that movie. And then Prater mentions having connections at every level of law enforcement, of course, including the FBI, because there's apparently an FBI agent with a gambling problem. I wonder who that is in the Dexter universe, or it'll be a new character that we meet if we ever meet this character. And then Gareth mentions girls shouldn't be allowed in their group. That's a little sexist in my opinion, but so Prater gives everybody more spending money. And then we have Charlie visiting somebody, and Charlie gives an envelope to this guy and says, need a friend. And the person kind of nods. And then Dexter is looking up the Gemini Killer on his phone. He definitely fits the code. And then Dexter follows Gareth, the Gemini Killer. He sees Gareth put a bookmarker in a book at the bookstore. And then he goes over to look, and he's marked the chapter of the Gemini Killer. And then the Bay Harbor Butcher, James Dokes, also has a chapter in this book. And then we have Charlie visiting her mom. It's not quite clear to me if her mom is still alive at this point in this scene. I think she is, but she doesn't. She's just laying there, doesn't say anything, like she's asleep. And then she mentions to her mom, you won't believe what I had to do today. I think Charlie's probably related to that person she went to visit. More on that person later in the review. And then we have Dante has a bad asthma attack due to the black mold in his closet. And Blessing gets mad at Sam because he bought more than one bag of ice. And then Dexter had initially opened his door, and then Sam tried carrying all the ice bags. And so Dexter said, need a hand with that. And then when he goes back downstairs to his place, Gareth, the Gemini Killer, is actually in there. And he's like, why'd you take my note? And Dexter says, because he's a fan. And then he asks Gareth about a drink, a gin and tonic, and he's going to make a drink for them. And then Gareth mentions that the note was for him. And then Dexter puts M99 in one of the drinks. And then as Dexter's going to hand Gareth a drink, Gareth grabs the other drink that Dexter had And then they cheers, and then they drink, and then Gareth passes out. So Dexter knew that this guy would pull that, like, oh, I don't trust you. I'm going to take the opposite drink. Unless Dexter somehow has an immune system to M99, which I don't think is the case. And then Dante starts having an asthma attack, and Harrison gets the breathing machine. And then the landlord arrives. I think this is the guy from The Sopranos. I don't know for sure because I only watched the first season and 3 episodes of The Sopranos. But I know somebody from The Sopranos got casted in Dexter Resurrection. And he tells Harrison to tell Elsa to pay her rent, or he'll take other measures. He also mentioned that he's not fixing shit. And then Harrison actually has a vision of stabbing this guy with a fork. And then we have Dexter killing Gareth as he's heard enough of him for the evening. And right after he stabs him, Blessing shows up. Dexter puts, he's got plastic down. Dexter rolls him up and puts him in the bathtub and then opens the door for Blessing. And he just came to apologize for his actions towards Sam earlier. And he says his mother saved his life. Blessing tells Dexter he was forced to do unspeakable things. He even killed one person, he mentions. And he mentions he don't know how to go on. Dexter gives him some advice. Blessing mentions something about a monster. And then Blessing needs some pain, like aspirin or Advil. I can't remember what he said. And he goes into the Dexter says it's in the medicine cabinet. Then realizes, shit, that's in the bathroom where I have Gareth's body. And Blessing goes in there and grabs it out of the medicine cabinet. And then he notices one of the hooks from the shower thing is falling off, or the shower curtain's not on the hook, I should say. But the shower curtain's closed. Blessing fixes it and then leaves. So he doesn't actually investigate what's actually in the shower, thankfully. It feels like to me that might be Dexter and Blessing's last scene. I don't know if Blessing's days might be numbered on this show. I don't think he's the New York Ripper. In fact, I don't think we'll meet the New York Ripper, if this character is in the show, until either the finale or not even this season and a future season of Dexter, when Dexter goes on the hunt for the New York Ripper. Anyway, Dexter meets with Harrison, Harrison tells Dexter that he saw himself killing Elsa's landlord, and Dexter says, don't go backwards. Did you want to hurt him? And then Dexter says you had an impulse to do the right thing. And then Dexter mentions Deb. She made mistakes. I'm surprised he didn't mention that Deb actually killed Maria LaGuerta. Maybe Dexter wants to take that to his grave. And then Dexter says, just because you have a temper, it doesn't mean you're a monster. It makes you human. And then we have Charlie calls Dexter saying, Prater's got a surprise for you. Then we also have Angel Batista, Claudette Wallace, and Melvin Oliva are at the jail. And then Angel mentions that he's the only one there to clear Mia. But unfortunately, Mia is actually hung in her cell, dead. She killed herself. One of the guards is actually the guy that Charlie gave the envelope to. And he mentions that she's gone after he checks her pulse, if that's really Mia's body. I don't know. When deaths happen off screen, it makes me wonder, Hannah McKay. So I don't know if Mia's really gone, but maybe. I guess she is. And then Dexter finds out when he's in his car that Mia killed herself, but Dexter thinks they took care of her instead. And then Rapunzel's happy Al. They're going on a whirlybird, and they're waiting for Gareth. And then Gareth has arrived. Holy shit. Gemini. How did I not see this coming? The Gemini Killer's twins. Fuck me, Dexter's narration says. And that's what ends this episode of Dexter Resurrection. So, pretty good episode. Obviously, the whole Hannah McKay thing at the beginning of the episode was epic, for me at least. So, I'm going to score this episode an 8.6 out of 10. I liked how it moved. The character of the episode, I'm going to give it to Gareth, the Gemini Killer, although I think Blessing and Gareth collectively should be the character of the episode. So, you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Dexter, Dexter New Blood, Dexter Original Sin, or of course Dexter Resurrection, which I hope you are, you're watching this video, to help me out with the algorithm, if you could Hulk smash the like button, that would be greatly appreciated. It does help out the channel, and if you don't, well, you'll probably end up on my table. Share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about this episode of Dexter Resurrection. What would you rate the episode? who would be your character of the episode. We know that Dexter is the character of every episode, but if there's a secondary character, you'll be interacting with me, the legendary Crazy Coffee Man in there. I'm sure T. Parker Evans will be in there. Brad Hawk Talk will be in there. Vinny Lima. We'll also have Rusty Reels in the comment section. All my Dexter fanatics that love Dexter just as much as me will be in the comment section. So join the team. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching video anyway. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get over 100,000 subscribers. Yes, I know I set my goals high. Show your damn support. Be a part of something special, and you never know what you're going to see on JDub TV.